all of you shout at me if you need to. I got so busy running my mouth, I forgot it. Okay. But you'll have this document. So the part that I missed
I forgot to report also Norris singing in the bathroom.
Yeah. So you'll have this document no matter what, okay? So you'll just miss us talking about, and you won't get to hear us talk about praising you again, you know, how we praised you in the beginning. But anyway, and number 8, once this is done, you will submit to your course instructor, my students to me, Dr. Revis to her, and in Blackboard, there's a place for you to submit task 1 through 5 combined. We're going to look at it, and if there's any issues with the formatting, you know, blah, 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 we don't have to go through and look at all of the details of it again. However, Dr. Revis may see something that I didn't see with hers, and she may say, you know, before I'm going to give permission, she may want you to go strengthen something in task 5, task 4, you know, and we've talked about that, and I have no problem.
I think you've frozen, Dr. Stedman. While he's frozen and gets unfrozen, just let me say that remember the whole document is double spaced. And so sometimes between section headings, you have an extra space there, or at the end of one section and then beginning another section, there's an extra space there. So just go through and check it all, and just do a visual check, because we want this to be as polished as possible. And we've worked with these evaluators long enough to know that if it looks polished and the format's correct, they tend to take your work much more seriously. So that's why we're doing this one last check before you move forward.
Can you hear me now, Dr. Revis?
Yes, you're unfrozen.
Okay. You do not submit to Turnitin until Dr. Revis tells her class to, or until I tell my class to. You do not mess with Turnitin, and I'm going to go to I'm going to show you where that is in just a minute. Remember, when you do turn it in to Turnitin, you won't get a report back. Dr. Revis and I will get a report, but you won't get a report. If there's a problem with the report that we get back, we will contact you personally, and we will work through that. Additionally, look, your course shell provides a document that tells you step-by-step how to submit the final AAPSL or AAPTEL to Taskstream for evaluation. I'm going to show you where that is. And you can also find a short video that Dr. Lamb has produced. It's about 2.5, 3 minutes that shows you the process. He actually shows you the process with that. So that is in your Blackboard shells as well. But again, you've got this document. I would print it out and I would look at it step by step as I was, you know, doing my work and putting it together. This is step by step. Dr. Revis, did I miss anything? Because I put this together quickly this afternoon.
Yes, that is very good. Very well done. I want to go back and reiterate a couple things. This combined task 1 through 5 is due Thursday. We look at it, and you don't do another thing until you see what we've said to you. You're either going to say, go back and revise ABC, or you are ready to submit to Turnitin. Folks, do not jump the gun with Turnitin. You get one chance. And if you jump the gun, you've blown it. So I just want to re-emphasize that. I know that a lot of you like to work ahead. Just wait on us, and be patient with us. Once you get your Turnitin results, or we get it, then we will let you know through your grade book. We'll either say you have an acceptable Turnitin score, and you're ready to submit to Taskstream. That's what I usually say. I'm sure Dr. Stedman says something very similarly. Do not jump the gun on this. Everybody got it?
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody good? Okay. Let's go to your course shell and you'll click again on syllabus policies and other course information. When you scroll down, let's look for,
It's on down, I think.
yeah. Okay. That's not it right there. That's for task. Here it is. Video and document library for Taskstream. Click on that. And you see this link right here will tell you how to upload a completed evidence for evaluation in Taskstream. That's Dr. Lamb talking to you about that. Okay. I checked it today and it does work. Okay. Then I want you to look.
Let me just say this. Dr.
Go ahead.
Stedman and I can't see what you see in Taskstream. So you've got to go by this video because we can't see where you're stuck or where you hung up.
Okay. Do you see under video library, you see this next thing? Process for submitting AAPSL AppTel to Taskstream for evaluation. This is a document that I created sometime back, or we created sometime back. And again, this is, again, I like to see things in writing. So this is something that will help you as well. Once the AAPSL has been cleared by Dr. Revis or me and has been graded and submitted to the AAPSL AppTel or assignment or to your Dropbox, you will be instructed to submit to the Turnitin process, as we've already said. Again, you have only one opportunity to submit to the Turnitin process, which is located in Blackboard. Click and follow the process to upload your completed evidence. Again, Turnitin is an originality checking and plagiarism prevention service that checks your writing for citation mistakes or inappropriate copying. When you submit your paper, Turnitin compares it to text in its massive database of student work, websites, books, articles, etc. Now, Dr. Revis and I have been doing this a long time. We know things that are going to show us in your report that it may look like it, but we know the difference because of all the massive amount of students ahead that's preceded you that have done some of this same work. So we know what to look for in this. But if for some reason anybody, and I hope nobody has, that you have used resources or used programs that were not acceptable and or somebody else's work, it's going to tell us who that person was. It's going to tell us where they're from. It's going to tell us who they were. It'll tell us what semester they were even in school. It tells us all that stuff. So please, please, please don't let that happen to you. And Dr. Revis, it has happened a few times with us, hasn't it?
It has. And what I have seen happen before, I mean, all these directions that are in there from your template, they're going to be, they're going to hit, it's going to hit on all that. We know that. But where I've seen it happen a lot is if you have two people at the same school, sometimes working together, but writing your own narratives. Sometimes some of your stuff will hit on each other. But we know as long as you're doing unique work and writing your own narratives, we understand that some things can happen. For example, you're probably only going to build one action plan if you're working in the same school. So we get all that. Unfortunately, we have had students who have submitted bits and pieces from another students that was a former Gardner-Webb student or worked at another school and a former student. It's going to catch you. But I am very confident.
Me too.
that we're not going to have that.
Me too. And I have to tell you this. If for some reason somebody just let artificial intelligence do all their writing, it's going to tell us that too. So I hope that's not happening. I don't think it has happened. A reminder, if you receive a 3 proficiency or 4 accomplished, you will be directed to move forward. Anything below a 3 will require revisions immediately before you are able to move on. And again, this is just another how to organize the AAPSL for final submission. But this document is in your course shell as well. Before we move on, are there any questions about how to put it together? And once you put it together, what the requirements are to get it to Turnitin. Now go to your assignments. You will go to your assignments for grade, and let's down past that. I'm just about through. Assignments for grade. Okay, here we are. Okay, again, and I'll pull that up in just a second and we'll go over the case study. But again, when you put the 5, when you put them all together, this is where you're going to submit it for Dr. Revis and me to look at it and to either send it back for more edits or tell you that it's ready to go to the Turnitin process. When we tell you it's ready to go to the Turnitin process, you will click on AAPSL Final for Turnitin. Don't even go there yet. Don't even tempt yourself until we have given you permission. But when you open it up, well, it's going to be different. This is what Dr. Revis and I are going to see. When my students submit their work, it's going to prompt me that it's in there. And this is where I can go in and look at everything and then give permission to go on. When you look at yours, it's going to tell you that it's, to submit, submit to the Turnitin process. Okay. Once all of that is done and you submit it to the Turnitin process, we'll tell you to submit to Taskstream for evaluation. You've got the process for doing that. Once it has gone to Taskstream, that third-party evaluator scores it. You get your score back. You simply do a screenshot and you send us a copy of the screenshot. And that's the last thing that we do for the AAPSL. Okay? Is everything clear as mud with that? You got it? Everybody good? Everybody good. One more thing. This is where you go. Stuart talked to me. He said he was scared to click on that thing until it was time to submit it, but it's okay. You just click there, and this is where you find your directions for the AAPSL case study. We did this last week, and this is where you find the actual case study itself. This is where you're going to submit all your work. You're going to submit. When you submit, remember, you're going to submit. We don't need to see the questions that you answered from the case study. That's for you whenever you're doing your Zoom team presentation, when you're presenting or collaboratively talking about the case study. We need to see that. Let me look on this, show you this real fast. We just simply need to see, you're going to answer, first of all, you're going to read the case study and you're going to write a detailed one paragraph response for each of the questions. You're going to use those whenever you meet with your Zoom team on this case study. Again, whoever the Zoom master is, they're going to send out links and they're going to record it and they're going to send you a copy of that link as they have done previously with another Zoom assignment. Now, during the case study, remember those things that Dr. Revis shared with you the week I was out about those starters, things that the do's and the don'ts, the things that you need to make sure you stay on task. And again, make sure that you're presenting this just as if you were before a school improvement team, the superintendent, educators, administrators at your school. Present and work just like you had a big audience observing you. Remember, Dr. Revis and I are going to listen to your language. Language being, we want to hear evidence of your readings. We want to hear researchers' names in here. I'd like, if Sam's present, I want Sam to say, when I was doing my research, I found out that blah, blah, blah said about, that helped me a lot in understanding this case. So make references back as you can to some of the work that you've already done and the research and the processes that you have been involved in already. But what you're going to submit to us, you're going to submit that Zoom link, and then each of you are going to do a 2-part narrative. The first part is going to be a reflective summary of the case study itself. Now, we don't want the case study regurgitated. We just want you to talk, and you may put some of your your thoughts in there about the case study as well. And then the second part is going to be a reflection on the actual Zoom team experience, and lessons learned from that. So that's what you will submit, and that will be the grade. We're going to look to see that everybody is participating, and that you come prepared for this. So are there any questions about the Zoom, the case study activity? Any questions?
May I say a few words, Dr. Stedman?
Sure.
May I say a few words, Dr. Stedman? For my students, I'm looking very heavily that you are citing research. You're just not giving an opinion. You don't just say, I think, da, 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 da. The principal should have done this or the principal should have done that. Think about some of the articles that you've had to read and some of the research that you've done and what you've done in the AAPSL. Remember, this is a case study after the AAPSL. So make a connection to the work that you did in the AAPSL. You first looked at data, then you had a PLC come together, then you looked at data, and then you looked at research. Think about that process as it relates to your case study. And if I don't hear researchers, or if I don't hear you reference the language of the AAPSL, you will not get 100. I'm just going to tell you.
And that's the same for me. Dr. Revis she was saying what I was saying in a very matter-of-fact way. But Dr. Revis, thank you for that, and I appreciate that. So, Doctor, are there any questions about what the expectations are from this? Everybody good so far? Well, Dr. Revis, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Let me get going here. Where am I? I know I'm up here. Okay. I want to go into our content, and we're going to first review our clinical log. So under your content, under this syllabus, policies, and other information, you scroll down till you hit this folder. clinical internship, and competency folio resources. Okay, I'm gonna first talk about our clinical and make sure everybody's clear on that. And let me open this document, and you all have this. What we are doing right now is what we call a mid-semester check, okay? And we just want to make sure mid-semester means that we would expect you to have at least half of your clinical hours done. So at least 100 hours has to be done. Well, excuse me, you're 12 months, so at least 200 hours total for this semester, but 100 hours can be done, needs to be done at this point. So on your log, we would expect to see you log 10 hours at most for task 1 of the AAPSL, 10 hours for task 2, 3. Now, you may not have logged all of that, but at most 10 hours you can count from the AAPSL tasks. So that's 50 hours. You can also log 5 hours for the competency work that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So out of your 100 hours it's due, 55 can be right here. Okay.
Dr. Revis, may I say something?
Sure.
I told them last week when we were talking, I told them, I said, now the 10 hours can't be you sitting at home doing your homework. It's got to reflect leadership with the AAPSL, and that's working with your PLC, even doing some of the research and stuff that we can count some of that. You're pulling the data, disaggregating some data at school. We can count some of that, but just sitting at home, putting your work together on your own, that does not count as
Right.
these hours.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Stedman. Yeah, you can count just about everything you do with this AAPSL except for when you're writing up your narrative work. You can't count that.
Right.
All
Stuart,
right. So let's
see. Stuart has a question.
Yes. Do PLC meetings count as internship hours?
Yes.
Yes, but they're going to be in the AAPSL. They're going to be here in this 55 hours. Okay. All right.
So just real quick to clarify, we don't put our PLC meetings separately on our internship log.
No,
That's
I'll go back over the example here, Stuart, in just a sec. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Revis.
So there's 55 you can get. Now let's look at the other. All right. Now, this would be at the end of the semester, but these are kind of percentages, guys, of your 100 hours that you're doing right now. About 5 hours of supervision is all we want to see. 10 hours at the end of the semester, 5 hours right now. Here's where people get in trouble. I know that your principal is assigning you many more than 5 hours of supervision. That's fine. He or she is your boss, but you cannot document and count more than 5 right now. 10 for the full semester, 5 right now.
Dr. Revis, Sam. Sam sent me a message today. Sam, did you get my answer back? I responded to, can you hear me? Go ahead.
Sam, I can't hear you.
Okay, Dr. Revis, can you hear me now?
I can.
It went in and out. Sam sent me a message today, and he was trying to find some clarity on some things, and I sent it back a message. What it appeared, if he had just said that, I had to do this duty, it would have just been nothing but supervision. But once he explained it to me, he was supervising, but he was able to turn it into a leadership activity. And I explained to him how he needed to talk about that in his little narrative work and the artifacts. So you probably have some opportunities, if you will look deeply into it, where you are doing supervision that may be able to be turned into a leadership activity. So that made me think. Sam, thank you for sending that to me, because it made me think a little bit more about some things.
We're going to look at, for technical knowledge right now, no more than 10 hours of technical knowledge. And those would be things like working with your bookkeeper, working with your data manager on scheduling at the beginning of the school years, those kinds of things. And a minimum of 35 hours right now come from leadership opportunities, but they can't be leadership opportunities that you got from your AAPSL work. Let me say it again. These 35 hours right here need to be leadership opportunities that you did not get when you were working and doing your AAPSL work. So let me show you. Let's go look at the example, because I think the example makes more sense now.
Dr. Reed, two hands raised.
Okay. Do you mind holding your questions? Let me get through this example right quick. Now, in your example, I went ahead and pulled this up this afternoon, and I went through and I just highlighted in red text, or put in red text, things that this person pulled from the AAPSL. So I see you can't just put task 1 AAPSL 10 hours. You can't do that. You have to break it down. This tells me exactly what you did for your AAPSL. That's where you first met with your principal. Here's where you researched your school report card and accreditation report to use in your school profile. This is where you prepared your agenda, sent out invitations, and 2 hours, and so on. Developed your school profile, led your PLC, AAPSL PLC, typed up meeting notes. You see, you've got to either put I like to see like AAPSL task 1 or AAPSL task 2, so on and so forth. And most of what you're doing in the AAPSL work is going to be leadership. You may have a little technical stuff, but most of it would be leadership. Now, outside of those things, here I co-led a new student orientation. Well, here's a supervision. Yep, you got supervision here. But guess what, guys? That was 2 hours. I can only get 3 more hours for this mid-semester check. Worked with school counselor on student schedule changes. Worked with the data manager to make sure student lunch schedule was evened up. Worked with the AD to schedule deputies. Now, this is not supervision, because actually what you're doing is you're learning how to schedule deputies for all home football games. Here's another supervision. Now I'm up to 4 hours. To segregate, okay, observed an AP dealing with a discipline issue and how he investigated it. Now that's 5 hours of supervision. Worked with the athletic director setting up wrestling match gates. You know, the gate box for one of your teachers to take up money and the tickets and all that stuff. So, you know, you've got to get at least 30 hours right now into things other than what you've been doing in your coursework. Your AAPSL is your coursework. We're just letting you double dip on some of it, because your coursework, in your coursework, they are authentic tasks that you do with your staff. but you have to do things outside of that. Now, let me stop and I'll take questions. Casey?
So just to clarify, like I understand the difference between AAPSL task hours and internship hours, but when we're documenting our hours, do we need to specify like they did, like I sent out invitations for our PLC meeting and this task, do we need to break it down like that, or do we just put like task 1, 10 hours, task 2, 10 hours?
I want to see it broken down.
Okay.
And because let me tell you why. Remember this, this is a requirement by the state. They're not going to know what task 1 is, AAPSL task 1. So we have to prepare our clinical logs so that there's some explanation and description. Okay? Julia?
Then how would we do task 5?
Same kind of thing. You're reflecting upon gathering evidences of your reflection on the competencies. Now, you're going to stretch things there probably a little bit. Julia, did you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. We are going to, for the AAPSL task, they're going to go on the intern log. And beside it, you're going to put leadership, technical, or supervise. But that does not go towards the 70, 20, and 10, correct?
Correct.
That's a whole separate thing.
Right. You've got to
Okay.
get 200. You've got to get 200 per semester. We're letting you count 100 hours from your coursework. You've got to do that other 100 hours outside of that coursework.
Dr. Revis,
Yes.
I see what she's saying. I think that 70, 20, those 100 hours.
Right now, it's just,
Okay,
it's half of that.
55 hours. 55 hours comes from, I know what you're asking, Julia. 55 hours comes from your work with the AAPSL. 45 hours comes directly from your clinical experience.
Yes.
Okay,
Is that what you're
And
asking?
if you take percentages, it breaks down like this because I did the percentages. Right now at mid-semester, you need to have about 4.5 hours of supervision. You can have about 9 hours of technical and 31.5 hours of leadership. You want me to say those again? 4.5 supervision, 9 hours technical, 31.5 leadership.
See that 70.
I'm not telling you I'm going to
Right.
add every one of them up,
Right.
but here's what I look at. I really look at that supervision. I will ding you hard if you've got more than 4.5, 5 hours in supervision. If you go over one way or the other mid-semester, it's not a big deal, but by the end of the semester, it needs to be even out. So, Judy, does that help?
I think so. I might send my log for someone just to look at and make sure I understand. It confuses me because you want us to put the L, S, and T beside the AAPSL, but it doesn't really count for the other ones, right?
Well, when you go to the state, when your log goes to the state, you have to show leadership. You have to show that you have spent the vast majority of your time, 70% of your time, in leadership activities. Okay. I think you're overthinking it a little bit because just about everything that you do with the AAPSL is going to be leadership. You'll have some technical stuff, but almost all of it will be leadership. Just get it in here first and then worry about this. And remember, these two columns, competency and proof, are optional. Savannah?
Hey, I think the confusion is that the number adds up to 100 hours, which is half of it. So the half that comes from the APSL, is there any kind of, besides just being more leadership than anything else, there's no specific number of how many of those APSL hours need to be L, how many need to be T, correct?
No, but as I just said, the majority of that 55 hours should be leadership, because you are leading, you are meeting with the principal, you are leading PLCs, you're getting ready to lead PLCs, those kinds of things.
Right. So that's why there's no like guideline as to how many of that 100 or 55 in this case right now need to be which one, because they're mostly all going to be in that category.
But mostly will be leadership.
Got
Yes,
it.
you'll have some technical. You would not have any supervision. It's going to be majority leadership, some technical. Okay. Any other questions? And of course, this is the template that you use. It's in the same location as this example. Vanessa,
Hi, Dr. Ravis.
how are you?
I'm doing well. Where do we turn this in at?
I'm going to show you that in just one sec,
Oh,
okay?
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Always ahead of me, Vanessa.
Sorry.
All right, let me stop now. And I want to go back to, I'm going to change gears now, and I want to talk about what we've called competency folio in the past. Now, Dr. Stedman can explain this so much better than me, and Dr. Stedman, please join me in this. The state is getting ready to make a major change, beginning with you guys, fall semester 24, in your requirements for principal add-on licensure. We used to do competency folios. This may be what we're going to do in the future. It may not be. But we're going to, because we don't have anything else right now, we are going to continue with the competency folio. You know, we've got an election coming up, and some say with this election, the work that's been done may or may not continue. You know, it's all up in the air. But we're not going to let you be caught up in the air. We're going to get you prepared. So under this same tab, scroll all the way down, and you will see competency folio mid-semester check. And let me
Go to the
open
three
that
dots.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got everything covering it up,
Okay,
Dr.
you got it.
Stedman.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. All
Good.
right. So we made this document. You're not going to put this in Taskstream. All right. It says that you're going to do that, but you're not. Where you're gonna submit it, and we'll tell you where, and you are going to hold on to it. Now, when you get this document, make a copy of it, make it yours. And I've already done an example here. Here are the 12 competencies that we had to do for the task 5. Same 12 competencies. But you have to reflect from the AAPSL, how you met these competencies. Not from your open-ended, not from your clinical. Is that what we decided, Dr. Stedman? Only from the AAPSL work.
Right.
Okay. So you have to do a brief description. Now, I mean brief. It should not take you over one sentence, but it should always start out with saying where it came and which semester. And then it starts out, I demonstrated communication. That's my competency. When I requested permission from our principal to convene a new PLC for the APSL task, she responded affirmatively to my email. And that's the link that you link to your document. All right. Now you need to take that out and put your own words in. There
Dr.
is change
Revis,
management. Yes.
Dr. Revis, I told them last week too that if they put a link in there, they had to also have the artifact, because remember, the evaluators will not open up links. So it's okay to
Right.
have it there,
Right.
you know, for your purposes, but you must show the artifact.
Right. Most of these artifacts you should be able to pull from your appendices work. You know, you've got lots of agendas, you've got pictures of you presenting, you've got emails, you've got lots of things. Now, what you don't want to do is upload a link to your task one. I won't look at that. I will not look at that. These are artifacts, things. What do you want me to see from task one? You know, if it's just the agenda, that's the link to your agenda. And you have 12 of these. The same 12 that you've already written about in task 5. Let me stop. Questions on that? Vanessa, you still have your hand up. Is it a new question?
Sorry, I forgot to lower the hand.
That's
Doc-
okay. Stuart?
Yeah, I was curious as to what it, I think, I just want to make sure that like pictures count as artifacts, emails count as artifacts. These are all artifacts.
Things, artifacts, evidences. Yes, an agenda. Your PLC agenda. You know, all those
Right.
things are
I
all
found
artifacts.
myself for some of these, I kind of went back and I realized like, okay, I didn't have a picture necessarily of me resolving conflict. So, you know, this morning I had myself at the security check and I got one of my pals to take an action photograph of me resolving conflict. Does that count?
We count.
Yep.
Okay. Questions? Julia?
Okay, so I heard you say that the competency folio can only come from work we did in the AAPSL. So that means that anything we did for like our internship that was like resolving conflict would not count. It has to be what we did in the AAPSL.
Dr. Revis, there's going to be a few of them. The majority should come from the AAPSL, and there will be a few. It goes back like, you know, with the 70, 30, and 10. There may be a few that will have to come from somewhere else, but the majority is going to come from your work with the AAPSL.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just curious because some of the work that I wrote, like in my task, I wrote from things that I did in my clinical, like organizing events. Okay, so I can use that, but I need to also use the AAPSL work.
Is that
Majority.
Well, I would think organizational ability, you could pull that one easily from your APSL work, where you've done agendas and, you know, scheduled meetings and things like that. If you can pull it from APSL, pull it from APSL. But
right?
you may not have had any conflict, you know, in your PLC. So that was a good example for Stuart to think about how he could fall back on his clinical work. All right, let's talk about where these go. This is kind of crazy now, guys. You don't put them in your course shell. Go back out. You're going to go, and this is probably the first time you've gone here, your 698. Your 698. You'll either be a 698C2 or 698C4. That's where you go. Because Dr. Stedman is going to evaluate the log and folio work for my students, and then I will evaluate his students. So go in here under discussions, write that down under discussions. Open it up. And your first two entries are where you put these. Mid-semester clinical log, AAPSL folio competencies. Okay? We give you feedback in that discussion board, and we will either say, met your mid-semester clinical log hours or requirements, or we'll give you feedback about you need to go back and substitute some other work for a few of your hours on supervision, or you've met your your folio work for the AAPSL. It's going to be something brief, or you may need to look at something. All right, but just go in and look at your feedback. And then we simply add to this at the end of the semester. Okay? Any questions on the folio or the clinical log? Vanessa?
I'm so sorry.
You
for
don't
this
apologize.
for this mid-semester check for the clinical log, does the supervisor need to sign it?
That's a good question. I don't think we've had them sign it, have we, Dr. Stedman?
Not
No.
not in the past.
Not
But-
at mid-semester. That's a good question, Vanessa.
Thank
But you do have to get it signed at the end of the semester. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And at the end of the semester, Vanessa and all of you, it'll be a combination of the new, plus you will take the 100 hours for the mid-semester and put them all together.
Stuart?
So just to clarify, so we're submitting this, and this is the discussions log for the 601 class or for the internship class?
It's from it says 698. 698.
Okay.
And you've probably never been in there, Stuart.
I've poked around in there looking at stuff, just checking.
Okay.
And when is this supposed to be submitted?
Okay, Dr. Revis, your internship hours are due this Sunday by 6 o'clock. The folio work is not due until next Sunday by 6 o'clock. So you've got about 2 weeks for your folio work and again your internship work by this Sunday. Okay.
So your priority for this week has to be getting on this log and putting your AAPSL task together. Okay. Any other questions before I stop share? These are good questions, guys. And please do not say I'm sorry when you're asking a question. That's what we're here for.
Right. Well, Dr. Revis, that was clear as mud to me. So thank you for a great job.
You know what? We tend to overthink the competency log and the competency folio and the log. We overthink it way too much. Okay.
Okay, everybody, do you understand? Dr. Revis, can you stop? Nicole has a question. Can you stop sharing, Dr. Revis?
Sorry, I thought I did. I have, I think. Am I still sharing? I thought I stopped. I think I've stopped, Dr. Stedman.
Okay.
I just got confused on the competency folio because I think I was writing things down when you talked about it, Dr. Revis. It was when the artifacts, you said that the state's not going to look at a link. And then Stuart was asking about putting in the pictures. So do I put a link? Do I put a picture?
For us, put a link.
Okay.
But somehow you need to document where you put that link in case you have to submit that to the state folio. Okay.
Okay. So be aware of where I save the picture.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much.
Any more questions? So just remember, you've still got some time on your case study. The case study, unless you just have time. that really doesn't have to be a priority this week. So, so I would focus on, getting the AAPSL combined, getting it to Dr. Revis and me for approval for the Turnitin process. And let's go ahead and try to get, we need to try to get them all submitted by this week so your evaluators will have them in their hands and they can start working on them. But we want them right when they go in, where they're going to be right, or we're not going to let them go in. Okay. And then your next priority is going to be getting your internship work, that log completed. Those are the two main priorities this week. And then next week, remember, you'll have your case study, and then you'll have your folio work that will be due the next week. And then you will have that work due, and then we're going to begin talking to you about how to get started on the AAPSL, because the AAPSL will be over with. Okay.
Dr. Stedman,
Uh-huh.
I think is our case study, is that not due this Sunday evening?
I don't think so, Dr. Revis. Let me come back and let me look at my document right here for let me share. I'm going to share screen. Okay. Let me find where I can. Okay, share. Okay. And I might be wrong.
I was just looking at the
Okay,
agenda.
let me look the agenda. Let me look down. And you're okay, this is week 6. No, that's week 7. That's what that should have been. Okay,
Yeah,
this
week
week.
7.
Okay, okay. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I was thinking week 6. Your case study is due this week. I'm sorry. I apologize. Forget I ever said that. It's null and void now.
Do we want to move it to week 8?
Dr. Revis, let's move it to week 8. We're okay.
I think it would be better.
Okay.
Let's let them get the AAPSL ready. Go
Right.
through that process.
Yeah.
Let's get your log ready.
Yes.
And
Let's
then
do
the
that.
following week we'll do the case study
Okay.
and the folio.
Good.
Does that sound good, guys?
Everybody good with that? So your case study is not due this week. And so again, it goes back to what I was saying originally. Your focus should be on, getting the AAPSL ready for submission and finally submitting it, and then working on your internship logs. Okay.
Now, guys, don't get all wigged out when you get a 0 there in that case study box, because it's
Dr. Revis,
probably set to be.
I'll go back and fix it so they won't get a 0 in there. So
Okay.
You'll be okay.
All right, so everybody clear on what we got to get done by this Sunday evening. Now, friends, if you wait until Sunday evening to turn into me tasks 1 through 5, I don't have time to look at it for you to get through Turnitin. So you need to set yourself a goal that you're going to have tasks 1 through 5 all combined and to us by Thursday. That's doable. Okay. And then once you start doing that and you get in that Turnitin and all that process, this becomes a very individualized thing. And so some of you will have these scores to your state evaluator back by Sunday. Some of you won't, but it's all going to be very individual at this point.
And there's some things we need to talk about work ethic and, in the future and those things, but we're going to hold off on that until next week. And we'll talk about those things as we're talking about, holding you more responsible and backing off a little bit and observing. It's kind of like teaching your baby how to walk, and you stand them up and you got your arms stretched out. You're not going to go too far from them, but you've got to give them enough distance so that they can start taking those steps on their own. And that's kind of the way we look at this, with you.
And guys, we don't teach a lot of content. We expect you to do your readings. We expect you to, demonstrate that you have read your readings in your case studies and that kind of thing. But when you move to the next class, it totally switches. They do a lot of content, but they do not support you in your evidence work, in the work that you do, the authentic projects you got to do in your school. They just don't. So we are going to intentionally pull back, and we're going to want you to start looking at that rubric and unpacking that rubric, just like you would as a teacher unpacking a standard. But we'll talk more about that. We already talking about it. I don't know why I say that.
Well,
Sorry.
And just know that, and I think you understand this. It's not busy stuff. There's a rhyme and reason for everything that we ask you to do. There's a good rationale behind it, and I think most of you have figured that out already. So, well, guys, we're going to let you go, and we will see you next Tuesday. Okay, and then the week after that. Now, come ready, because we're going to load you next week. We're going to have to talk about the AAPSL Task 1 and 2 at the same time. You know why? Because the next week is fall break for the college, but you don't have fall break, but we don't have class that week. So that gives you an opportunity, to work without being interrupted. So we're going to give you lots next week, okay? So be prepared. There's 3 hands raised. Stuart?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to just for clarification on the competencies. Dr. Dr. Revis mentioned all wigged out. That's a lot of us. So I'm confused as to with the competencies. First of all, is this a graded assignment or something we're kind of doing in banking just in case?
It's an unofficial graded assignment. It's required. You cannot move out of this semester without it, and it's more like a pass or fail with your coaching clinical coach too, because these are going to be requirements before you can graduate from the program that has to all be combined over the 3 semesters and combined and compiled to be submitted to DPI for your certification.
Okay. And we have some members of the team that have had family members and friends that have done the program before, and we're getting varied feedback onto whether or not to provide the actual picture or a link. So like in my document, I've got the pictures and screenshots of emails and that kind of thing. If I need to have a link to that stuff, it would be great to know now.
It's fine. Either way. We'll take them either way. Okay. And again, we're breaking new ground here because there are new standards and a new process. And we are just doing things a little bit differently, but I'll take either one you want to give me. Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Rico. I think you're muted, Rico. There you
I could
go.
not look it up for some reason. I had a personal question. I'm not going to stay back after everyone leave.
He said he had a personal question, Dr. Revis, when everybody leaves.
Okay, after class is over. Okay, just stay on.
Okay, Nicole, did you still have a question? Okay. Okay, well, guys, we'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
Okay, got it.